I won't let you fall if you don't let me fall. Okay? All right. I think I can start look at that. Let's go.
Are we good, cameraman? Cameraman? No pressure, but we're all looking at you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
So, wow, our room is filled up. This is really great. So to get us kicked off, I do have some prepared questions if people are shy, but if you have a question that you're itching to ask right now, we're all friends here. And does anybody who's thank you. Yeah, hi.
Has anybody filmed at the Reef?
Filmed at the where? The Reef. The Reef? What's the, has anyone here filmed at the Reef?
No.
No. I don't know.
Well, they don't allow it anymore, right?
Yeah, I think we ruined it.
Oh, are you the reason why people can't film there anymore?
Yeah, our sound guy left their refrigerator on.
Oh.
Or off, excuse me. Yeah.
So for context for the rest of the crowd, what is it? I mean, is it a building? Is it no, the Reef?
Oh, the Reef. Oh yeah, it's a restaurant.
Oh, it's a restaurant. Okay, so it's a restaurant, and people aren't welcome there anymore. So we should knock on their door.
Yeah, they got burned. We tried to film there on a different project, and they were sort of like, yeah, you totally can, but it's going to cost an arm and a leg.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Okay. All right. So we know who to send the vote to.
Yeah. You can play Mustard Call of Beef and Justin.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I believe I'm hearing the voice of J. Arthur Sunday, perhaps.
Yeah.
Hey, isn't he supposed to be up here? No, you're on.
You're
on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Hey, nice to meet you. I'll be your moderator on Friday. See, the people that you meet each day, huh? Right here. Okay. So, did we answer? Was that helpful to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you have a follow-up, just ask. Anybody else? What do we have here? Okay. Yes, sir.
I have a question for Emmy. Your film screened at the short film showcase, Queen of Swords, and it had very interesting sound design. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that.
See, I was nervous. Jason asked, like, oh, do you have, are you nervous about starting? And I was like, yeah, and like trick questions from the audience, so good thing I get the first question. Thanks, yeah, so Queen of Swords did show at the short showcase a couple days ago. Sound. So for those of you who may not have seen the piece, I basically am weaving together, a soundscape and also different landscapes together. Some sound is diegetic, some sound is non-diegetic and remains that way. I was interested in, a lot of, talking about how I recorded it. So some of it is, I just recorded with my iPhone. I'm really big into not having to invest in equipment. And oftentimes I think that equipment is used as a barrier for making. Jason mentioned something about that earlier. And so, yeah, I'm recording, like, literally using voice memos. There's a fencing scene, and that's what I was doing with that. And then just, like, the built-in mic, I shoot with a DSLR. And I also use some, I don't know what kind of answer you want, but I also was using some like free songs from online. But yeah, what do you want?
Well, specifically the sound of what seemed to be like a deck of cards.
Yes.
And it felt like almost it was used as narrative, or used as a way to kind of assert emotion.
100%.
Yeah, so I was just curious about how you came up with that.
Choices about that. So that sound was super tricky for me. A lot of folks, like through the multiple like screenings I've had, or like different versions, weren't able to identify that sound, and so that was really hard for me because I wanted it to be read as like shuffling of cards. And so having to rework and rework and rework. And I kind of liked having it be not super clear, but using it as a way to sort of pull the viewer back to, okay, both the title and then linking all of the elements together. Thank you for seeing it as like a narrative structure. I appreciate that. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
What? So did you actually use a deck of cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You folded it yourself?
Yes.
What software did you use? Do you like how I cut you off on my own question? Sorry. I apologize. I get excited. I'm sorry. I do this. I get excited. And so if I accidentally cut you off, please forgive me. I'm asking for forgiveness now, just like I'm asking you. So go ahead and say what you're going to say, then I have another follow-up.
No.
What did you use to record? So as far as you used the phone recorder app on the iPhone itself? Okay.
And then I just like edit with Adobe Audition is mostly what I'm using.
Is that free?
No, I mean, it's not free, but as a student you get a discounted thing
Okay.
using the cloud.
Student discount.
Yeah,
So
it's more expensive now.
Okay.
But there are, of course, like free options out there. I know some folks have used Audacity, and that's like free for folks. But there definitely are options for cheaper software through Adobe. You can figure out ways to do that. Doesn't always have to be legal.
So do you have a secret place on the web that you go to if you're looking for, as you're constructing, doing your sound design? Is there a particular website or something you can suggest that you go to for creaking door or shuffling of cards? In this case, I know you make the shuffling cards yourself. But
This is really, like, I feel like this sounds really bad, but...
Oh no, this is great. Yes, tell us. This is the juice here. We're listening.
I am like a big YouTube nerd, and I actually really like sourcing a lot of things from YouTube.
Okay. So you'll find a sound that you like on YouTube. So like, did you go to YouTube like shuffling cards as a search and looked at it
sure.
just to kind of get an idea, and then would you steal?
I would say steal.
Would you borrow? Would you borrow?
There are just, like I said, there are cheap and free ways to navigate the system, and yeah, maybe.
No, that's good. Okay, that's good. But no barriers. I mean, right? I mean, technology's become so interesting now, and it's making a good film. Let's forget about structure. Let's talk about just cinematography and cutting and the editing and the sound and stuff like that. It's become so much more accessible to folks that I just love that. Talking about it is not the same thing as doing it, and you did it. And it's the same thing with our friend in the front who shoots on his iPhone 6. It's the same thing. Good for you. Keep telling stories. Keep doing it. You will. It'll get better. So it's great.
I think the BBC also just released like their whole sound library as well for free that you can use. I have no idea how to just Google it.
I heard that. Has anyone else heard that out there? The BBC releasing sound catalogs. Is that royalty free? Can we just kind of pop that in my commercial endeavor, or is there a secret licensing thing to that? I don't know the answer.
Anyway,
It's okay. It's okay not to know the answer. It's okay. I'm just curious.
I think-
have an answer.
It's absolutely free unless you get in trouble. Then don't come back to me.
Isn't that always the case? I was just having a discussion with George Lucas, his lawyers, about using Johnny Williams' score, and so it's only a problem until you get caught, right? But it's interesting. Any questions out there? Thank you for that. Thank you for the question. Yes.
I work with teens making films, and I had two sort of questions, just asking what kind of advice. One is, did you go to film school? Would you recommend it or not? And what do you do for a living while you're making films?
That's a great question. That's a good one, isn't it? Was that one of my great questions?
Did any of us go to film school?
That is one of your
That is one of my questions. Great lines.
You went to Evergreen too, right? You're not
So
Evergreen.
on the panel, to help warm up this question, how many people on the panel have gone to a structured film school? Is that the right way to say it?
Structured might not be the best
Structured.
word for it.
Okay.
Film.
Film. Have a degree in film, in particular, or just the film? What one could call college film? I'm trying to find the right words there.
This much.
Okay. I didn't. I can tell you that. But my experience has been through the actors, and then learning all the jobs on the set and going, you know what, I want to tell some stories on film.
And from your knowledge, would any of you recommend film school?
Well, I mean, it really depends on what you're. Oh gosh, it really depends on what you're looking to get out of. You have to really weigh the pros and the cons. And I'm not anyone who's ever gone to film school. You said you're working with teenagers, right? I'm 19. I just got out of high school, and so where I'm at right now is it's an interesting kind of spot as someone who's an aspiring filmmaker. It's just one of those things where film school isn't going to be. It's not going to. The only way you're going to make films as a filmmaker is by making them, and it seems so obvious when you say it out loud, but it's really the truth. I mean, you can go learn everything you need to learn for the most part from a technical standpoint outside of film school. At least that's my belief. It could be naive, like I said, I'm only 19, but you don't necessarily need it. Now there are, not to say that there aren't benefits. Like film school is a fantastic networking opportunity. If you're looking to making it like really big in the business as a producer, a director, a cinematographer, an actor, what have you, going to film school is an excellent option if you can afford it, and just because of the plethora of people you're able to meet and the plethora of people you're able to connect with over a certain period of time. And if you're the type of person who really wants to, understand the industry standards for gear and equipment and even lingo, film school is a great opportunity for you, because a lot of them, especially if you get out to like Los Angeles or New York, they'll have those for you. They'll have gear ready for you to use. They'll have that software. But if you're someone who is passionate and just wants to make films, you don't need to go to film school. Film school should be, in my opinion, considered as perhaps maybe an added thing to your career path, but it shouldn't be end-all be-all for filmmaking. It's not like you're training to be a doctor. You don't need a PhD, you just need to do it. And anyways, that's my belief. I don't know if anyone else on the panel would like to add to that question.
I was basically going to say the exact same thing that you were going to say.
Anything? Anyone else?
I have something to add.
Yes. Oh wait, that was confusing.
There's a mic right here. My bad. And again, I can't speak to an experience that I haven't had, that being film school. And all the things he said, it's true. There are benefits of that. I'm certain that I have seen with some people I've worked with a formal education, you run the risk of becoming somebody who approaches art like it's science. And I think that that's really dangerous, because I've had people try to tell me, well, your story structure in this script isn't X, Y, Z. The climax should happen on X page.
Yeah, like Save the Cat.
Yeah, like basically you read Save the Cat and took it as a scientific text when it's not. So that's a risk you run. I think that can be a drawback. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that. Sorry, I don't want to hog the conversation, but I think that's a really good and valid point. I mean, you can look at some of the leading creatives in the industry, and a handful, like quite a few of them, haven't gone to film school or have never had any formal education, and their intuition and their want and their drive to make movies is what got them there. So you do run a risk of looking at art as a science by going to something a little bit more formal. And that's something that if you decide to go to film school, you should be very wary of. But I don't have any more to add to that. So
I think the best. Oh, do you want to?
Can I play the devil's advocate on that?
Yeah, I was going to too. Like, you go.
There is a danger of your creativity being usurped by science. I think that is true. It's also important to keep an open mind as to what's going on and who your audience is going to be. I mean, if you're making something and you think, you know what, I want to make money with this. I want to turn this into a feature film that's going to make money. Then you have to consider who your audience is and how big they're going to be and whether you can actually sell your film. I hate to say that, but that's kind of something you have to consider. We just went to AFM and we were selling our film. Let me tell you what, if you would have walked into any of those rooms and said, I believe that art trumps everything, they'd probably say, okay, bye. Unfortunately, they're not really looking necessarily for artistic films, sadly. They're looking for films that can make them money. And so you got to look at it two ways. If you really want to be successful and want to work with a team that can, we now have a team that might get paid when they reach. We had to look at it as something that we could sell. So there, and no artist likes to think about that, but we did have to think about that. Yeah.
Thank you for that very hard truth.
I see. Well, I just have a question actually. Sort of this kind of goes with the They Reach and art and business. Sort
Are
of
you a heckler?
No.
Yeah, what's going on here,
It's not
Mr.
heckling. It's not heckling. I'm just curious. And there's kind of that Venn diagram of art and business, right? And so you have the people on They Reach who maybe were aspiring for art, right? And you have to have those in filmmaking, I feel like, right?
I agree.
Because otherwise it's just like an industrial video that you would see like, oh, this is some thing that I have to learn while working at Amazon or something, right? But, you also have to have this leadership that's like, okay, that's great, keep up the art, but let's get it channeled and let's make some money with this art, right?
That is the perfect explanation of what you have to do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that, I don't know, and I'm looking at film school right now for my master's currently, and it's because I feel like, sort of like up here in the Northwest, we maybe have like great stuff going on, but it's like we're still in a vacuum, and we're still sort of looked down upon by, like New York and LA and sort of like the other big industries still. And so getting into that market and making movies, right? So it's like having the liberty to make a big movie, like have your vision, you kind of have to meet those monsters that are running the show.
That's true.
And so you're right, it's like you can just go out there and make your movie and it's gonna be amazing, right? And you might get in, right? That's a huge long shot. But you decrease those odds, or you make those odds better by getting into the system. And getting into the system is kind of going to film school. I don't know. That's just.
Can I respond?
Gallery.
I would like to rephrase a bit of what I said. I don't want to make it implied that I am, an advocate against film school.
I heard you were against film school.
I know. Oh gosh. But I think what you said is really interesting about having two types of. You have the people who are spearheading it from an artistic perspective, and then people who are spearheading a film from a more producer money standpoint, a business perspective. And there's this real science to business. What I'm trying to iterate is the fact that you can go into film school, or you can even just go into filmmaking in general with this idea of like, I want to make art, right? And that'll only get you so far. And you can also go into it with this idea of I want to make money out of movies, and that'll only get you so far. And from what I've seen and the very limited knowledge that I have on the topic of filmmaking and the industry in general, going through the avenues of film school doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way to inject yourself into the system. There are many other ways you can do so. And in fact, I believe it was Kubrick who even said that, and now granted he's older, he's dead, and that the time has passed, but he said that everyone who gets in their own way, each story is different, each avenue is different. So I think what you need to do is really need to trust your intuition. I think you said you're J. Arthur Sunday, is your name? You mentioned that you were going to film school for your master's, and I think that's fantastic. I think that you trusting your intuition on a matter is incredible. And I think, to answer your question, these students, these teenagers that you're working for, they just need to regulate and understand what they're trying to get out of it, and if film school offers that or not. It's not an easy answer because it's barely an answer at all, but it's just one of those things where it's going to vary from person to person, and each situation is different. Everything, as far as the film industry, could be in its own way a subjective offset of itself. So
I'm just gonna we have some latecomers, so I'm gonna call attention to you. So we do have some chairs up front. You're welcome to come on up while I'm buying you guys time. We have a chair here. There's a chair here. There's a chair that we can put on stage. if you like.
There's like 3 chairs up there.
I would suspect that the spirit behind your question is what advice can you give to these young filmmakers when it comes to going either the academic route or just making films? The great news is they can take away the excuses right now. They can just start making films right now. For me, for my training as an actor, going to the conservatory acting program at Cornish was right for me, because not only was it a way for me to learn a process that's repeatable and reliable, like the Stanislavski, but it's also something that it's also learning how to work and play well with others. Because sometimes the quickest way from point A to point B isn't a straight line, it's the path of least resistance. So how do you do that? You do that by getting to know how to work with people and how to engage with folks. So perhaps a strategy that you can employ is really have your students or the person that you're trying to give advice to is ask them specifically, to get very specific, what do they want to do with filmmaking? Is it directing? Is it the producing side? And really hone down, because that could open up different avenues that maybe weren't possible. So my wish for you would be to look at it from specific, what is specifically about films do you want to do? What is it about that? Who do you know that you admire that you want to try to emulate? And something like that. Film program might be just the thing for them, you know, if they like that kind of structure. So it's really on the personality. But also at the same time, they can be making films right now while they're looking for film schools too. So, you know, I think that's kind of what you were saying. No, go ahead.
There are also some, Olympia is a great place to go to film school, really, because we don't, the film schools here are not, there are really 2 main film schools, I believe. There's Evergreen and it's SP.
We were talking about that, Nina.
I'm sorry.
We were like,
right, what's it called?
South Puget Sound.
South Puget Sound Community College, which has a great program, and it's not horribly expensive. You don't have to spend $60,000 to go to film school, and you can learn a ton, you know, while you're in Olympia.
Oh, wow, boy, you launched off one question. It's kind of like 4th of July.
I just think ultimately, it depends on your goal, and you have to decide what your ultimate goal is. Is your goal to have this as a hobby and really express yourself and not necessarily try to make money or seek real, you know, success in the conventional way with it? Or is your goal to really make this a career and try and make money and move up with it? And I think that's going to determine whether you go to film school and what your next move is.
I think that's great, being intentional with what you want and not being afraid to say, you know what, I want to make motion pictures to make money. I want to live off of this. And owning it and going, okay, that's exactly what I want to do. Or the other avenues. I think that's really brilliant, being very specific and honest with yourself. You can't be honest with yourself, then you can be honest with
because, I mean, neither option is wrong.
Right.
You just kind of got to know where you're coming from.
Did you have was there a follow, was there a follow-up question to that question?
Just how do you make a living while you're doing
Well, I was busting the tables earlier. You saw me moving in the chairs. How do you make money? So while we're making our films, guys, what do you do to pay the rent?
Should we go down the line?
Should we go down the line?
Our moderator made jokes about busting tables, but that is what I do. So
no, and I wasn't trying to film it.
No, I got you. But I do bust tables, and I cook as well. So that is what I do.
Okay.
I'm kind of lucky because I am now a full-time producer on a feature that actually seems to be doing pretty well. Thank you. Yeah. And then before that, I was making these goofy little training videos for hospitals and things like that, orientation videos and stuff like that. So, yeah. Here you go.
I'm also lucky as I'm still a student, so I haven't had to support myself just yet.
I'm a marketing director, and I also do freelance work on the side, like Ryan did.
I'm actually a stay-at-home mom when I'm not making films. So you may see me at the park with my toddler and my latte.
I make motion at Archibald's, and I also help people at SPS, students, edit their films, edit their photos, all that fun stuff. And I'm a grocery store cashier. And it's the best job. Not even joking.
Where do you work?
I see a hand up there.
Oh, where do I? Where? Question?
It's a hand.
Yeah. Where do you work?
which grocery store?
Oh, was that the question?
That's the question. If this wasn't recorded, I would tell you. I'll tell you later. Don't want to be like, mobbed with fans at work. I try to keep a low profile.
I only
there.
want checkout number 7.
Yeah. No autographs, please.
Yeah.
So 2 things. The royalty-free music, I think UUC is only for personal or educational use.
Personal or educational use.
And then my question is for people who haven't yet made a feature film but have done short films.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're looking to pursue, or are you simply interested in short film and kind of developing that craft?
I've only made shorts, but I think one of my ultimate goals is definitely to make a feature. And one of my ways of getting to that point is I kind of want to the longest short I've ever made is around 10 minutes, and then I want to make something that's 20 minutes and then 40 minutes and just feel really good about that, length, and just work my way up to something a bit longer.
I've made a feature.
It's true.
I think there's other people who haven't made a feature.
Thank you, Riley. I would definitely be interested in making a feature if I think of or find a story good enough to tell. Yeah.
I have no desire to make a feature-length film. I think part of it is just because the films that I enjoy the most are shorts. I don't know if it's because I have a short attention span or what, but for me, I feel like my work is trying to make something that's concise and still very powerful and succinct is important to me. Not that feature lengths aren't great, but I just know that that's not a thing that I'm interested in doing.
Yes, sir.
Out of curiosity, what kind of cameras do you use, and is it? Yeah, I'll just keep it at that.
So a camera technology question of what kind of? Well, we know the gentleman over here uses a GH4, and I know for They Reach, we are very particular. On our feature, the great sound and great imagery doesn't happen by accident. And so we made a very careful, we were very thoughtful in our approach to that. So we filmed, we went with a red Dragon and some really nice glass. You think the camera body's oh man, it's so much money, but wait till you get into the lenses. Especially you get some nice Zeiss lenses that kind of keep the image all the way edge to edge. Oh my gosh, I learned so much about that. And that's definitely, that was a choice that we made for that one. But our other films that we filmed on GH5 for the shorts that Brian and I had worked on before worked really, really well. So.
Yeah, GH4 and GH5. And Leo came to our rescue. We did shoot a little bit of They Reach on a GH5S, and we had 2 batteries. And
oh, he's the battery guy that you ran to. Did you save our baby?
Leo is the battery guy that saved our life on the day. So.
That was for a nighttime shot. The GH5S had the light sensors just really, really great, where it was actually far superior to our red. And so we only had 2 batteries. What's that?
We were shooting on 2 cameras, so yeah, it did. The GH5S does get very good pictures without light. So
easier to mount on the outside of a car.
So thank you, Leo.
Yeah, thank you. You allowed us to keep the cameras rolling.
The star of today's panel is Leo.
But that's really good. Forewarned is foreprepared. Have your cameras, have enough memory cards, have enough batteries, because you don't want your camera sitting idle while you're on location, because you didn't rent another battery or your memory card's filled up and DIT is slow, because those are huge files, by the way, for the GH5S. Giant mammoth, we couldn't believe how long they took to transfer. So you always want to be leapfrogging those particular things. I'm seeing people standing in the back. I'm going to go ahead and do some housekeeping. So go ahead and pass that down. Hi, welcome. We have some chairs up here.
GH4.
I use a mixture of really old Canon Rebel T3i, and sometimes if I'm on location or something and I want to get a quick shot, my iPhone. And it's 1080p, so I don't care. I don't give a shit.
I really don't work on the crew side of stuff, so I use what the camera person brings.
It's usually my camera.
It's usually his camera.
A shot on Blackmagic. I have the T3i, but it's pretty bad. I'll use that if I have to. I don't know. I'm usually not the camera person here, so.
I shoot on like Canon DSLRs. A 50D is normally what I use, or an iPhone. You know, whatever works.
Here we go. Oh, all kinds of questions. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna just, yes, sir.
What kind of, who did you look up to before you guys decided to be a filmmaker? Like, who is your inspiration?
Who was your inspiration? Who was your inspiration? Who was your inspiration?
Should we go down the line?
We're gonna go down the line. No, you're the first.
It's like I've talked so much. I'm so sorry. God, you opened a real floodgate here.
Briefly, who is your inspiration?
It's gonna sound. God, I'm gonna sound super pretentious, but it was just like cinema as a whole. There wasn't never like just one or two or even a handful of people who I really like latched onto. At a really young age, I fell in love with like 1940s kind of noir films, and just that genre just really got me incredibly passionate about filmmaking. And then I just continued to watch more movies, and as I watched more films, my passion only grew. So that would be my answer.
That's a very open question. I think the first movie that I kind of latched on to movies, which is, I don't know, some people are embarrassed to do this, but it was the American Werewolf in London, John Landis.
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie, and so that kind of movie is kind of the movie that I make now or produce now. Yes, everybody is nodding their heads who knows me. And I also like Wes Anderson because he just breaks the rules all the time. And and I like Stanley Kubrick, even though he has this reputation of being a jerk on set. And and the Coen Brothers. Big fan of the Coen Brothers. Yeah, so there you go.
I became more of a film buff and like into directors after I started making movies, sometime like after middle school. But if you had to ask me who my favorite director was, I really love Paul Thomas Anderson, and also I really love like David Lynch as a director and what he has to say on creativity. And he's also super into like transcendental meditation. I just really want to like hang out with him.
My origin movie would be Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Everything about my life is because I saw Jurassic Park age 3, and yeah.
My origin movie would be the Harmony Korine movie Kids. I saw that when I was 16 years old and was really blown away that cinema could be like that. But nowadays, my two favorite director-producer types are definitely Ryan Murphy, who makes, I know, I'm talking about Ryan Murphy, who makes, Glee, American Horror Stories, and television producer, and Jared Hess, who made Napoleon Dynamite and the lesser-known Gentleman Broncos, which is a really good movie. I, too, have a weakness for Wes Anderson.
The movie that made me love movies was Shadow of a Doubt. Hitchcock.
Yeah.
I took a Hitchcock film history course, and it basically made me realize that this is what I want to do. I also am a big fan of Damien Chazelle. I think his work is exquisite. Also Edgar Wright, because who doesn't love Edgar Wright?
It's a popularity contest.
Also a big Hitchcock person. Rear Window is like incredible. Also, like my interest started, I wanted to be an actor. So I love Julianne Moore so much. I think she's incredible. And then Todd Haynes, love his films also, so yeah.
Mine would be Hitchcock. I like Hitchcock. Probably The Lodger is my favorite. It's a silent picture. And I like Ridley Scott, the way he does isolation and desolation is very interesting to me. And I'm a big fan of monster movies. Not movies with a monster in it. I always am fascinated. And I'm curious, would Jaws be as successful if it was released today? And it was. You think so? Even though you don't see the damn fish till the end of the film? Just great. I know, right? You don't see the thing. Of course, that's because of mechanical issues, but still. I love it. Okay, great. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. So I'm a college student and filmmaker, and I wanted to know, because I have no budget to make any projects. I was wondering for any of you who have been no budget before or are now, like what advice you have for how to make things look good with no budget, or how to acquire some kind of budget to help out, like what you have to say about that.
Budget. Bride, you want to start that one?
Yes.
How many credit cards do you have?
Well, you can make no budget movies. It's you pull your friends together, and actually Jonah should be talking about this because he is the king of no budget movies. Let me talk to Jonah.
Get your friends together. I just know a lot of filmmakers, and I have them all help me, and we make things together collaboratively. And you know, I'm not good at like lighting and stuff like that, so I'll have other people come in and do lighting for me, and they know how to make stuff look really good, and use what you have, basically. Like, use access to what you have. Like, when I went to Evergreen, I used the Evergreen College a lot, like, for places that I probably shouldn't have, actually. One time, actually, we were filming a scene, and we came in on the weekend, and I had a key to the special room to the Cooper Point Journal office.
Is this?
Yes, and I had Rachel, she was acting in it, and I had her crying over yaoi manga.
Well dressed in business casual.
Well dressed in business casual. And then my Cooper Point Journal advisor walked in on me filming Rachel crying to all this gay Japanese comics, basically. So anyway, use what you have, even if you're not allowed, if you're like generally not allowed to, just do it. Just do it.
Go to events. Like, go to every event you can, talk to everyone you can there, because that's how you're going to make those connections and those friends. And then when you make those friends, show up for them, show up for their projects, and they usually return the favor.
Yes.
Yeah, you're here. That's a great way to do it. And you all showing up here today.
I would also like to add, yeah, cast your friends, put them in Cheat Ghost costumes. If they're your friends, they'll do it. Also, not a no budget tip, but a like little money tip. The dollar store is your best friend.
Yes.
That's all.
Also, leverage what's available to you as a student for software purchases. Maybe you do a group purchase. Maybe you can buy an editing box that you and your friends have gone into, and just not avoiding the license because it's still on that one PC, but you know, something you guys can share. Networking is highly helpful. Help out where you can. Maybe look at call boards, and if someone needs some help, because maybe you can, because currency of your time is currency too. Doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. Maybe you partner stuff. So one of the things that I like to do is, being an actor, I'm always wanting to practice my subtlety on film and my stillness. And so I partnered with some, and we created a group called the Dry Run Club. Bri is part of this, where we Dry Run Club, where we get together and they want to practice their cameras, Dutch into cameras, or whatever Ronin shot they want to practice, which is great for me because I want to practice, you know, my moment in front of the camera, whether it's just walking down the hall or, you know, doesn't have to be scripted, but getting a glass of water or something like that. So they're practicing, I'm practicing, refining the craft always. So that's another good way to do it, is just to create a team of people, you know. It's kind of like the old thing, you know, hey, you know, my mom can sew, my dad has an old barn, let's put on a show. Is that helpful to you? I mean, is that kind of...
Thank you.
If I had more time, I can think of others. So I also brought a ton of business cards, so you're welcome to take it. Reach out to me. Love making new friends.
Can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
Save your receipts. I have a lot of friends who rented from Amazon. I feel like I'm the person that's like, hey, do this thing, but don't tell anyone. Yeah, so, you know, buying something and then using it and then returning it is a thing that's done and is definitely a way to make things happen. Yeah, okay.
Can I also add, you can pirate software. I'm not saying pirate software, but like that's what we do.
Pirate software.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, sir, in the front.
A couple years ago, I wrote a novel about the climate change. It's basically a eco-socialist novel, and it's been selling fairly well in the country. And one reader of it is a screenwriter. So he wrote up a 3-act treatment and a script, and I'm wondering what to do with it. Because first of all, like, are any of you, or anybody in the audience possibly, looking for a good science fiction thriller love story that is about the, one reviewer of the book said that this book is as current as tomorrow's headlines. And looking at California now, so like, where do I go? What do I do?
They're passing the microphone.
They're passing it.
All right. Find a good producer. That's one thing you can do.
Perhaps.
And just kind of the same thing that we've been saying about making low budget film. Just get your team of friends together and see how they can help. Yeah, a producer will help you put a team together if they know how to put a team together, or if it's somebody that's done it before. And so that might be a good step. So if you know anybody that is good at organizing, who could be a producer, or if you know a producer, go talk to them. And then there's a producers panel coming up on
Friday.
4
o'clock. I'll be up here. Your moderator.
And yeah, and then did you sell the rights of your book?
You own
to
the
screen?
Story rights, screen rights to your.
It's copyrighted. Both the
Copyrighted to you as the owner.
Both the novel, yes, and the treatment and script are all copyrighted.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I would say your next step would be to find a producer that can help put it together.
Volunteers.
Well, I mean, and also you don't have to eat the whole apple at once. Maybe you take a bite and maybe you take a segment of your script and make a short from that with the purpose. And this kind of goes back to the funding. This is what we did for They Reach. Is we took a whole film day, and we wanted to asking non-creative people to think creatively can be a challenge. So why not make it easy for them? So what we did is we took a whole day and we filmed a scene from our film. It wasn't a scene that was actually in the film, but it's a representation. So not only did it give an idea to our story, but it showed our finesse with the camera, our editing abilities and stuff like that. So there's so much more information that's conveyed. But we use that as part of our Indiegogo campaign, to be able to, why say no when it's so easy to say yes when it comes to fundraising? And one of the ways you can make that easier is to provide as much information as you can. So perhaps there's a scene that you can do a short in or a 15-minute treatment of, and that would give you a really good idea of, does this thing have legs? How is the response when you start to submit it to festivals and stuff like that? Can you use this as a fundraising tip? Back to the question earlier, as far as getting funding like that. It's a lot easier to have people buy into something that they can see as opposed to, hey, here's a script, read it and try to imagine what the film could be like.
Yeah, that's called a proof of concept video. So just get some people together, make a proof of concept video, not make it go over 10 minutes long, because that's difficult for investors to watch. And then show it to people with money and say, hey, you know what, we have this, we'd like to turn it into a feature film. What do you think? And then you have proof of what you can do.
Thank you.
I'm going to check the time. Am I supposed to be on time? I'm supposed to be time here. Do we get to go over? We only have 7 minutes left. Can we go over?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
How late do I have to pay the meter till? No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
I was amazed you guys meters take quarters. And you know what? I had quarters in my car that I was going, what am I going to do with these quarters? So, okay.
Great. Want to go about 5:15?
If people start trickling out, that's when we
just wait till
we're up here by
people
ourselves.
start
Just turn off the lights on the way up. Okay, let's keep on going. Next question. This is great. I'm saying, I feel like I'm just getting warmed up. Any other questions? Yeah.
Curious if for any of you there's a moment where you felt like you kind of leveled up your abilities as a filmmaker. Was it if you watched a certain movie or you read something or you did something on set that kind of you realized that your skills were improved?
What was that moment that you realized you have raised the bar for yourself? Is that an accurate?
I don't know if there is a moment. I think you just kind of blink and you're like, oh shit, I'm good. What?
People are watching my film. That's really exciting. I mean, it really, yeah.
I don't know if I leveled up, but I definitely feel like I advance the most when I like mess up the most. So there was one film that I actually did in Olympia like a year ago, and June worked on it.
Oh, that was that?
You did great. You guys did great, but I dropped the ball on it, and I just like learned so much, and it's just like helped me make so many other films. So yeah, just
Can you be
fucked up a
more
lot.
specific about what happened?
Yeah. The first thing that like comes to mind is I'd never really worked on a film that I had raised money for, so there's that pressure, and then also there was like a lot of people on set, and I wasn't really used to that. So one thing I learned from that is that I feel like a lot more comfortable, and that I can get into like the right creative mindset on set when I have a smaller crew. And then maybe one other thing I would say is while I was working on the film, I didn't feel like a strong feeling of like what I wanted the film to feel like tone-wise. And I've definitely learned from that when I don't have a really distinct feeling for the vision of the film, then I really need to be working on developing it more before I set out into like actually making it. So.
Are you able to do that early in the pre-production process now? Because sometimes I don't realize that until after the meter's running, and it's like, wow, I'm a little underprepared here. Are you able to identify that in your own work, going to do that pre-work before you set out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well. Any others? Yeah.
As for if I had ever like an aha moment, it was kind of like, it was almost reversed for me. I was like, I went into it being like, yeah, I could really kick some ass filmmaking, and then I made some stuff, I was like, oh God, I don't know anything. And that was my aha moment. That was where like, oh, okay, I need to take a couple steps back and learn more about filmmaking in general. So, but yeah, I don't know if there's ever, at least for anyone, I don't know if there's ever just going to be just one moment where you're like, oh, okay, like I just got that, you know, that next level. I've gotten there. It's always going to be with every project you start to work on. You're always going to take something out of it. You're always going to learn a little bit more. I think there's always more to learn. But I don't know if that answers your question.
I know for me that I always move the goalpost, and so when I get close to the goalpost, I simply move it and I don't ever cross it. So it's kind of abstract for me. If I look at my body and work on film, and I can go back and I can see some, well, I can always see where I can improve. But I always try to take a moment going, what did I like about it? What have I succeeded in? But I probably need to celebrate that a little bit more than I do, because I'm constantly moving that goalpost. And I think having some self-gratification is okay to a point. You go, wow, geez, look at that. I have learned something. I am making progress on that.
Yeah, I think something that seems to be a key in all of these is failure. I think it's important to fail and just go in, and you don't have to be determined to succeed at all costs. It's okay to fail. In fact, it's a good thing to fail, and you can learn from failure, as Isabel was saying. You can definitely learn from failure. I've definitely learned from failure a lot of times. So I think it's good to be able to tell when you've failed, and that's another thing that I think sometimes, especially in my past, I have kind of overlooked my failures, especially when I have friends and family around me telling me, oh, it's perfect, it's perfect, it's perfect. And later I realize, this is not perfect. I have a lot to learn. And so it's important to be able to look past people that tell you it's perfect and see where you can learn and improve.
So if you want to double your successes, triple your failures. No, I mean, there's some truth to that, right? Okay, I'm going to do a time checky thing here. So it is, it's 4:58. So if you need to leave at 5 and you need to go, we understand. We won't take it personally, but we are going to run a little over. If that's okay, we can answer more questions. So the time check is 4:58. So if you need to go, we won't be too hurt. Okay, next question. This is fun. Let's get going. Let's go all night.
You were going to respond, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Thank you.
Thanks. So I can be pretty hard on myself in general, and especially when it comes to like my workflow and thinking like, oh wow, I'll start a project and then I'll just get bored of it and then I'll just let it fall to the side, which I'm realizing is totally fine, and I don't have to like remain and totally invested in something if it's no longer interesting. But I think sort of a like leveling up moment for me when I realized like, wow, I've been working on this project for like 2 years and I'm still like super passionate about it, and it's gone through all these different iterations and I'm still passionate to go back in there and rework and reshoot, like shoot more stuff. So that feels really good for me and is not always something that happens. So yeah, that's kind of a different take for me. It's also the longest thing I've ever made, so there we go. Slowly but surely. Okay.
Frame by frame.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about filming in the Northwest or Olympia specifically?
I have mine. I can tell you that.
I love the location. I love the forest.
I like the how the permitting process.
It's true.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
I'll never film in Seattle. Enumclaw, Puyallup, Tacoma, they're getting a little snooty, but they were okay. But Olympia's been great. I mean, it's just, they really, we love filmmakers, and it's been fantastic. It really has. And you guys got great architecture that we can turn the building. It's like, oh my gosh, we're back where we in a time period piece, and it's just wonderful. So Olympia's got a lot going for them.
I really like the broken down, decrepit houses that are emptied, because I like sneaking into them and filming in them.
Okay, that's great.
Some of the beautiful historic buildings that are available for us to shoot in, and usually pretty easy to get permission to use or access to. Like for example, I shot at the Capitol Theater, and that was pretty awesome. Also, our beautiful green springs and summers. You can't be shooting outside during spring or summer in Washington. It's not too hot, it's not raining, it's just right.
Wonderful. We actually filmed a scene of They Reached Us down the street, right? At the antique
gym. Oh, the antique store.
The antique store on the corner.
That's
well, we ended up cutting
I
the
can't
scene.
remember what the name of it is right offhand.
We ended up cutting the scene only because
Finders Keepers.
Finders Keepers, wonderful shop owner. We were able to film in there. Unfortunately, we couldn't use the footage. We grossly underestimated the reflection in those big, beautiful windows. We thought we could hit it at certain angles, but then you see a Prius. I know, we're shooting a film that's set in the late 70s and you see a Prius in the reflection. We wrote with that, I don't know. It's the I'll fix it in post thing just doesn't fly very well.
Yeah, some great places. Also Knox Gym, we shot the Knox Gym. We shot
that was
Grace Point Park.
We've
shot all over Olympia,
yeah.
so it's
we love Olympia.
A wonderful place.
Looks like we've got a question in the front here we've had for a while.
Yeah, go ahead. He's holding this. Yeah.
I was wondering what some good jobs or other film-related things are good for young people to do to get started in the business.
Well, I mean, if you're interested, we're always accepting volunteers at the Olympia Film Society. And you can meet some really cool directors and producers there. I'm just saying.
But that's good. That gets you in the community. That gets you in the crowd. You know, you expand your tribe, your film family, right? It's a way to do it. Also, volunteering for films.
Oh, and also, it's probably relatively easy to find local directors or filmmakers who'd be willing to just kind of let you shadow on set if you're interested in that. You know, hang around if someone says go get the prop bin. You can be the person to go get the prop bin, but you're there and you're having the experience and you're seeing how it works.
Did you have something to add in the back? Yeah.
Well, so years ago, I had a friend who was in the industry, and I really wanted in, and I asked him that same question: what should I do? How do I get into the industry? And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to work in movies. And he's like, yeah, well, what do you want to do in movies? And I didn't understand. I was so mad, right? I was just like, that's not an answer. But after years of working in the industry, I realized that the people who get specialized skills are the ones who work, right? So if you want to direct, or if you want to produce, or you want to do those sort of things, it's going to take a long time before you're getting paid to do that. But if you want to be a camera assistant, if If you want to be a sound guy, if you want to be a lighting tech, do that and learn that backwards and forwards, and then you'll work.
It goes back to the question we were talking about earlier. Get specific.
Yeah.
Then that way you can be intentional with your time. It's okay. You might change your mind, and that's okay to change your mind. But that's probably going to help you lean into something a little bit more. I think that's great. And also learn color correction.
There's also an organization in Olympia, actually. Olympia Film Collective is a place to go. Just look it up on Google that, Olympia Film Collective, and attend one of their meetings, or 2 of their meetings, or 3 of their meetings, and you'll meet people there. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other advice for that? Or
I don't know if necessarily advice, but I mean, a lot of times people don't know what they want to do. They want to be involved in films. So you can't always be specific. Sometimes you just...
Oh, we got somebody playing the devil's advocate here.
I've seen it way too often. People would say, I don't know, and they get on, and what would happen is they become a PA on a set. And by being a PA, you saw what was happening everywhere. And then you gravitate towards where you really have your interest. And I think that's untitled. I see it a lot.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of become, whether you want to become a camera PA or you want to be something like that. You find out what you like best.
Yeah, a production assistant. That's what IRS is talking about. Which is a good place to start. You can see what everybody's doing and see what looks good, what doesn't look so great.
Yeah.
Also run TCTV because membership there, all their classes, and then you can have your own show on Channel 22 and
TCTV.
TCTV.
TC Media, I believe.
TC Media.
TC Media.
Is that a public access?
Yeah.
a million classes, editing.
They're really good.
They are really good. Yeah, that's true. And I don't think it costs very much, does it?
Very cheap.
Yeah, it's very, very inexpensive.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Oh boy. Okay, other questions? We're going all night. We're just taking all night. Yes.
I have another one.
You betcha.
So I was wondering, because I'm working on a script right now, and I'm kind of stuck because I know where I want it to end up, but I don't really know how to get there, so I kind of just like taking a break. And anyway, I was just wondering, like, if you have equivalent situations like that, when you know what you want eventually, but you don't know the steps to get there when you're in production, like whatever your role is, like what are some ways that you use to like try to get through that and figure that out?
Have you ever read, I think a lot of writers have read this, but Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. It's so good, you should read it. It's not necessarily about screenwriting, but it's just about writing in general and life and shit. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. But she said when you get writer's block, it's not really a block, it's more like you ran out of things. It's like you need to recharge. So I would say when you come across writer's block, just put it aside for a while and give it like a week or two, and you'll find yourself daydreaming, and you'll figure it out eventually.
You were talking about during the writing process, not after you're on set trying to figure out how to do
Oh yeah, was it writing you were talking about? Were you talking about writing, or?
Well, my situation specifically is writing because that's the stage that I'm in right now.
Okay.
But like any advice about that problem in general is like fine.
Oh well, you're on set. You probably shouldn't ignore everyone for a week, but someone else say something.
As far as tips or tricks, there's a book I enjoyed on writing. It's called Stephen King on Writing.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That I can highly recommend. I preferred the second part of the book. The first part is about his life and his life-altering experiences that he's had. But that is something, and I believe he addresses, sometimes you just got to step away from it. Maybe even write something else. I'm trying to find a magic answer for you, but I think what it is, it's, you sit there until your eyes bleed, and then you work your way out of it. But it's really kind of letting it hang out in the back of your mind until you can Rubik's Cube the shit out of it. And then bring it to writing groups and bring it to friends and have them get their perspective, Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say on writing, yeah, I like to beat myself up over not doing things I feel like I should be doing, and it's totally okay to break and forget about it for as long as you want. The current script I'm working on, I forgot about for half a year and then came back to it, and it's now coming together. So break, but also write trash. Write so much trash. Eventually you will find one thing that is not trash. And that's the end of what I'm saying.
And building off of that, I think for me, having a bunch of different projects working at the same time, then I can like shift, like, yeah, I'm taking a break from this one thing, and then I can still feel productive by doing another thing. It's kind of like, for me, if I'm like going for a walk, then my brain is just always cycling through ideas. And so it's sort of like doing that, but just also by working, if that makes sense.
Getting into a writer's group, you know, and asking that very question and see what people, it's not new, right? Everyone's been through that. It's just, they might have some tips and tricks on how to get out of it.
Also, maybe this is silly, just talk to basically everybody about it. I got a, why am I saying, okay, I've already started. I got a tarot reading a while ago, and this person, the reader, who was amazing, was like, actually, dating is going to be really helpful for you when it comes to your artistic practice. And I was like, I have no idea what you're saying. But turns out, it's true. So basically on every date, they're like, oh, that's cool, like you're in art school or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this project. And telling you about it, and by talking to all of these people, I'm like, oh, that's what it's about. Okay, and then, you know, going more. So, either going on lots of dates or just literally, you know, as a cashier, telling anyone who will listen about my project. So, yeah.
That'll be the next panel at midnight, is the Filmmakers dating service.
Yeah, I can moderate that, actually.
No, but that's really great, because, I mean, you're telling the same story, and some people will have different aptitudes of what they can follow. So some you might have to get really, really specific, and that can be the very thing that helps you get over your hurdle. That's brilliant. It's brilliant. Other questions? So we go into hour 2. We're at 5:11. Oh boy, we got our famous corner. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about some of the projects you're working on right now?
Some of the projects we're working on right now. Go ahead. We did, but he came. That's okay. We're gonna
Oh, you did.
No, that's all right. That's right. So, okay, I'll start. I'm executive producer and casting for a film called They Reach. We're a horror action adventure film that's in post-production right now. We just came back from the American film market. So we are working frantically. I'm looking this way. Bright Schroeder's our producer. We're working frantically to, we've had to accelerate our completion timeline very aggressively, and so we're working that situation right now. So
What happened at the American film market?
Go for it, you did.
So I went to the American film market. Do you guys know what the American film market is? For those of you who came in later, it's the largest buying and selling market of movies on this continent. It's the 3rd largest, I think, in the world, next to Berlin and Cannes. And that's where people go to sell their films, mainly independent films. So me and Silas Dahl, and really Jason stayed home, but he kept track of us. He kept track of all the people that we met with.
There were little blobs on a map, and I could see exactly where they were.
Yeah, so we went to this thing, and this thing is set in this great big hotel in Santa Monica. It's actually 3 hotels in Santa Monica, where thousands of people go, and they go from room to room, and each room is generally a production company or a distribution company, and they try to pitch their movie in each room. So that's what we did. We went to American Film Market with They Reach, and actually relatively successful with They Reach. We went there expecting to get, I don't know how much detail I should go into right now, but we went there hoping to get 6 meetings, because that's what our friends had been able to get, and people we talked to, and that's typical. Typically you get 6 to 8 meetings, and you get a request for screeners, which is the almost completed movie, and usually you get 4 or 5 requests for screeners. We got a lot more than that, and we got, in both categories, we got a lot more meetings, we got a lot more requests for screeners, and now we're having offers for those. So we're kind of excited. So that's what it's about. You just go, you show them, you try to get them to show you. The basic thing you do there is you try to get in the room, you try to talk to somebody. And the first day we were there, we failed miserably. We went home, we practiced, we role played with each other. The next day we did a little bit better. Don't tell anybody, but we actually snuck in the first day. We didn't have a ticket for the first day. We got in because I had to go to the bathroom, and I just went up and I said, I have to go to the bathroom. Can I just use your
So remember that tactic.
And they said, well, okay, it's over here. So we came out of the bathroom, we thought, we're over here. Let's just start doing some stuff. And that was actually very helpful because all the salespeople were not there yet. All the people that are selling the films. So we were there kind of with the vendors. And so they hadn't started talking to people selling their films yet. And we were like their first. And most of them said, we're not interested, or they didn't even listen to our pitch at all. But we gave them these little flash drives with our trailer and our clips, EPK,
electronic press kit.
And so they would say, I don't think we're interested. And we say, okay, well, here's a flash drive. If you have a chance to look at it, that'd be great. The next day, we started getting people calling us back in because they looked at the flash drives. So, flash drives. Take flash drives.
Flash drives, 8 gigabyte.
Yeah.
The main thing that we've learned is that they really don't, and this kind of ties into a discussion that we were having earlier, that's a marketplace. They're trying to figure out what's the price they can buy your film for, and then how much they think they can make off of it. And it's 3 criteria. The criteria is your film finished? What genre is your picture? And do you have any name stars? And based on a little schematic, little chart grid that they have, they can go across the line. They say, okay, I can probably buy your picture for that, and we can probably get this much out of it. It's very numbers, not really big into the art for art's sake. And so this is the part of the discussion that it might be kind of, this is your baby, right? I mean, we were in pre-production for just over 2 years. We had a lot of principal photography days because of various reasons. And we're still in post right now, and it's your baby, and you put your heart and soul in this, but not so much interested in that side.
And they don't care that it's your baby. They don't care that you're very passionate. They don't care that you have a film family. They don't care that you were very creative about how you put things together. All they care about is if this can make them money.
Right.
Really, that's right. Now there are some that had better quality movies than others, and so the way they make money is they make money with higher quality movies. And all the biggies were there: Netflix, Fox, Universal, Miramax, Lionsgate. Hundreds of vendors were there, and thousands of people were there trying to sell their movies. So, yeah, it was fascinating. Yeah, you can see why. Part of me says I can see why crappy movies sometimes get made, because they go in and they say, we have explosions, and we have, Jennifer Lawrence, and we have you will buy it. It's like, oh yeah, we'll take it. So that's how that happens.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did we get our DCP to Jonah to show our trailers?
I still have to make it.
Oh yeah, our trailers.
So our trailers, where's our trailer going to be shown then for all these fine folks that come and see our trailer?
So the They Reach trailer, if you want to check it out, we're showing One Cut of the Dead Friday at midnight, and the trailer will be playing before that, so you can get a sneaky peek of They Reach. It's gonna be pretty rad.
Where's that Friday?
What?
Where?
Oh, sorry, Capitol Theater. It's either here or Capitol Theater, that's it.
This is kind of in advance too, so we haven't technically released this.
Yeah, we haven't really, and this is the exact trailer that we brought down to the American Film Market, so pretty excited. Pretty excited. Special. Now I'm going to do a time check here.
Yeah, almost
that's what I do. We are at 5:17. God, I don't want this feeling to end. This is fun. I mean, it's nice community, right? I mean, you're getting around. We're just kind of BSing about making film. Yeah,
do we want to hear what in detail the other people's projects?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, because we were going through the list.
Yeah,
you're right. Thank you for that. Thank you, my brother. See, we support each other. I won't let you fall. He didn't let me fall. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, please.
Sure. Okay, so we worked on a thing called the Tetrahedron, which we're going to, I don't know, 2019 or something. But it's a science fiction thing, and we've been shooting all around Washington State. One thing we did was we shot at City Hall. They were nice enough to let us film there, so if you're nice, they might let you do things. That was really cool because we got to hire a makeup artist, and she did all these really cool alien effects. Hannah Kretzinger.
Hannah Kretzinger, she's awesome.
The best. That's my advice for you. If you want to get someone who's great, but you're on a budget, Hannah Kretzinger. She's amazing. She's magic. But yeah, so we're making a science fiction music video, basically, about dimension hopping. And Booger is tonight at 9. Okay.
So I actually have something in post right now that I shot it for 3 years. I took a good long break in the middle. It's called The Grove, and it was a long process. We talk about learning from failure. It was my first script. I got way too big for my britches. I fell flat on my face for a number of reasons, some of which were my fault, some of which were outside of my control. I took a good long break. I made OT3. I put it in a festival. And then I went back, I kind of radically rewrote it. I turned it into a short, using footage I already had and then some new script. So that finally, the shooting wrapped in September, and now it's in post. So hopefully, maybe we'll see it at the festival next year. Jonah, Rob, you better accept me.
What's it called again?
The Grove.
The Grove.
The Grove, yes.
My project is called Ghost Friend. It's about a man who is friends with the ghost that lives in his apartment. It's a dark comedy type deal. It's a short. I am currently writing it.
What do you need to make it?
I need to finish writing it.
There you go. Starts with the basic, right? Story.
So I'll reiterate what I said before. I also am a poet, I'm a writer, and so I am continuing to write about naming and renaming oneself. I write from personal narrative, and so I'm starting a project with my mom that is about retelling my birth story and how that's connected to naming. And I'm also working on a poetry collection. Yay! Yay.
Well, there we are. Thank you for your time.
Did I miss somebody? I don't want to goof. Did I goof?
No, you're good. Just to say more about what I said already about the documentary making about my grandmother's house. Right now, I'm just getting together interviews, and it's the second documentary I've ever made, and I'm really just enjoying editing and watching the story. Like for documentaries, for me at least, really comes together in editing. When I'm shooting, I'm just getting as much like B-roll as possible. And then I just have a lot of fun piecing everything together and editing. So that's kind of what's going on right now. But you have a question.
Do any of you use storyboarding when you plan your movies and films?
Yes.
Definitely we use storyboards. I can't speak. I mean, I would assume, right? Do we all use storyboards? No? Oh, we did. Gosh. Okay.
We did this year.
But as for projects, I'm currently working on an untitled documentary about the homeless in Olympia. And that's been consuming the most of my time as of recently. But that's all I can say about that at this current moment. Yeah. So.
Thank you. To your point about storyboards, I love the idea of storyboards. That's something that you can do right now, today, when your screenplay is finished, is you can map out your entire picture before anybody else is brought involved. And we find that storyboards is also very helpful as you start to procure your crew, your camera, your actors. You can use it and go back to that as your part of your roadmap, because these visuals are, really gets the artistic director, hey, here's the world I'm thinking about, to the DP, here's some camera shots that I'm thinking about. Let them create the shot list, but these visuals really will help you map out your film before you start spending too much money. So for me, I'm a big fan of get your whole film down on paper. And that way you'll work out all your problems. Sure, when you show up on locations, there's going to be poles something's going to need to be adjusted or something like that. But at least this way you'll be able to make your decisions a lot faster and faster. Makes it a lot more economical shoot, and a lot of people appreciate that because they're along for the journey. I'm a storyboard fan.
We have some awesome storyboards.
We have some great storyboards. Oh, we're going to wrap it up. I'm getting there. This is the wrap it up symbol. Well, everybody, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. For coming out here today. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it inspiring. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us or Also, don't forget the rest of the community out there. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for the thoughtful questions. That means a lot to us.
By the way, I can say Seattle Puget Sound Community College. I just wanted to do that.
Wait, Seattle?
Did I say it? Oh my God!
Okay, roll that again.
South Puget Sound Community College.
Yeah.
There we go.